Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this snowy day and the first day of National Apprenticeship Week. We're delighted. I'll say that again because my microphone was up. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us early on Monday, the first day of National Apprenticeship Week, on a nice snowy day. We're very excited to have such an austere organization joining us at the very beginning of the week. This morning, we're joined by ECITB, who will be discussing opportunities within the engineering and construction sector. You will also, I think it's going to be quite a great session with our guests. You will see on the right hand of your screen a chat box. Please feel free during the session to pop in any questions that you have. We will be answering them all at the end of the session, so we're gathering up. You might even get somebody responding to you directly on the chat box. So make sure to put all your questions in for a lively session that will be following at the end of the presentation. I hope that's everything that we need to say. The team's ready to go, so I'm going to hand straight over to Ashley Thompson and his team for a great session, and I'll speak with you later. Over to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Sharon, and thanks everyone for joining us today. A very good morning and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Ashley, a Learning Development Officer working for the Engineering Industry Training Board. In my role, I help look after the scholarship programme along with the new entrants team. I look after scholarship learners whilst on programme, making sure they get the very best skills and qualifications, helping them get industry ready. I liaise with providers and employers to ensure scholarship learners get work experience, which helps build their practical ability. I have to say, above all, the very best part of my job is seeing young people progress into fulfilling careers. But speaking about the scholarship programme, I'm joined by my colleague, Adrian, Head of New Entrants at ECITB. Adrian, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks Ashley. Hi everyone, my name's Adrian and it's a real pleasure to be here with you all today celebrating the 14th National Apprenticeship Week. So my role at the ECITB involves looking after all of the ECITB's programmes that help people enter the industry and gain meaningful careers. And now I'm going to hand you back over to Ashley.
Thanks, Adrian. We're also very happy to have two of our board members with us, Dawn James, Vice President for Nuclear Power at Jacobs, and Daniel Gear, Strategy Lead at Petrofac EPS.
Good morning, I am Dawn.
Dawn and Dan will share their experiences as former apprentices with us later today. But first things first, let me start this webinar by telling you a little bit about the ECITB. The Engineering Construction Industry Training Board is the skills, standards and qualifications body for the development of the engineering and construction workforce of Great Britain. So what does this actually mean? It means that we work with companies and training providers to attract, develop and qualify the people that work in the engineering and construction industry in a wide range of disciplines. So in short, we are here to make sure the workers have the right skills to do their jobs. Sounds simple, but engineering construction requires very specific, highly skilled workers. For example, some of our people may need to use drones to operate on an industrial site. So they need technical skills and training in order to do that safely. Now, some of you might be asking, but what exactly is engineering construction? Well, that's a fair question. I didn't know much about it when I was in school either. Engineering construction is actually a very interesting industry and it makes up of more than 1/5 of the total UK economy. So it is a big deal. To help you have a better idea of what the industry is like, I'll get our little bot to do the honours.
Engineering construction is the industry that powers our lives. It designs, builds, and looks after the energy systems that keep our lights on, the machines that keep our water clean and flowing, and put food on your table. The systems that generate the fuels we use to get about and to keep us warm. Engineering construction is central to tackling climate change. Do you want to learn skills that will allow you to enjoy an exciting and rewarding career and get paid a great starting salary? The industry needs people like you to power its future. It's time to change the future. It's time to change your future. It's time for a career in engineering construction.
So now you know a bit more about the industry, and you've probably noticed that we covered a fair few sectors. Here they are. Oil and gas, from manufacturing materials to making smartphones and tablets to keeping the house warm. This industry is supporting the transition to a lower carbon future. Pharmaceuticals that produce vital drugs and medicines for the UK pharmaceutical sector. I don't need to tell you how important that is these days. Renewables, which produces energy using the Earth's natural resources like wind, waves and biomass. Energy from renewables is clean, affordable and reliable. Chemicals, which is a highly diverse and impacts on almost every aspect of our daily life. The 3D print market, for example, relies heavily on the UK chemical industry. Food and drink, the biggest manufacturing industry in the UK, larger than automotive and aerospace combined. Examples of this sector produce ranges from biscuits to beers. Power, like power stations and turbines that generate electricity. Nuclear, which provides more than 20% of the country's electricity and is a reliable and low carbon energy source. Last but not least, water, that provides drinking water and wastewater services, including sewage treatment to our houses, to commercial units and industrial sectors. So from this short explanation, I think you could tell how much our industry is involved in the net zero agenda. Many engineering construction professionals work on superstructures ranging from wind farms to nuclear power stations, and we are helping to tackle climate change by designing and installing new energy solutions. That is really important, as we all need help. We all need the help we can get to help build a sustainable future. And what does apprenticeships have to do with all this? Well, apprenticeships are a great route into the industry. Let me share with you some information about this path into engineering construction. Best advantage of all, apprenticeships provide an opportunity to earn while you learn and combine practical training and study. As a result, apprentices are increasingly valued by employers, as you will be learning skills on the job. In addition, with our apprenticeships, you get to learn portable skills that will be your passport to the world of engineering. That means you will learn skills that can be useful for different sectors. Another important thing is that you can have opportunities to advance and develop your career. But don't take my word for it, you can hear it from Dan and Dawn's own experiences shortly. And finally, post-COVID and when travel resumes, you'll be able to work on major projects overseas as well as in the UK. I'll now ask Adrian to share with you some information about the ECITB Scholarship Programme, which is a great opportunity to be fast-tracked into an apprenticeship.
Okay, thanks Ashley. So, the ECITB Scholarship Programme, well, this is an absolutely fantastic opportunity for those engineering, aspiring engineers of the future. So if you need to pursue a career in our industry, I think the scholarship's a really good option to look at. So it's a course that will support learners to pursue a 2-year full-time off-the-job programme in a craft or technical discipline. Right, so what does it actually involve? So skills and knowledge training for 5 days a week over 2 full academic years. You also get the ECITB work-based online knowledge test, vocational qualifications that are recognised all over the country, and a level 3 engineering certificate. And we also make sure you get the relevant site safety passports. And add to this a really, really great opportunity to interact with employers so you can learn directly from those who will be looking to hire. Okay, so where are we delivering these courses? So currently we have 8 colleges and training providers at various places in England, and these delivery partners will deliver the ECITB scholarships around specific disciplines. And I should also say that the scholarship learners are paid a weekly allowance. Here on the map you can see the different disciplines that colleges across the country are offering at the moment. If you are interested and want to know more, please get in touch with us. Okay, so now for the final part of our webinar. This is where we'll hear from our board members and former apprentices a little bit about their own experience. So, Dawn and Dan, it's very nice to have you both with us this morning. Can I ask, or start by asking you to introduce yourselves and tell us briefly about your journey from apprentice to where you are now. May I start with you, Dawn?
You can indeed. So good morning, everybody. I'm Dawn James, and I'm the Vice President responsible for the nuclear power business in an organisation called Jacobs. Jacobs it's a significant multinational organisation providing critical mission solutions, bit of a mouthful that. So solutions to nations, missions that are critical. So last week we actually put satellites up into space. We do a lot of work for NASA. We do a lot of work on critical infrastructure. And my part of the business is very focused on nuclear and my bit, nuclear power. So globally we employ 55,000 people, huge number of people, all engineers and scientists. In my part of the business, we employ about 800 engineers, technical experts, project managers and designers. And they're creating new facilities and helping to keep the lights on by supporting the existing nuclear power stations here in the UK. And nuclear is absolutely critical to the future. So just as been shared previously, you know, the sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow, but nuclear power provides a great, clean, carbon-free baseload. So really excited to be leading this part of our business that's critical to your future. So a little bit about me. That was the original question, and my career path. So I loved maths, science, but also really quite creative. So probably at the age of 13, I decided I wanted to be a designer. I decided I wanted to be a draffy. I didn't really know what that meant, but I was determined that's what I was going to do. And so my apprenticeship was a technician apprenticeship, a 4-year. This is a few years ago. I'm 53 now. So we're talking of 37 years ago, which is a bit frightening. But I did a 4-year apprenticeship. The first year was off the job in a training school, and then progressed through a variety of different departments to get different experiences, some of those quality control, quality assurance, worked in some of the heavy machine shops, as well as some of the fabrication shops, before finally ending up in the drawing office, which is where I wanted to be. And then quickly realised that really didn't suit me and my temperament and my personality. Much, much better at pushing things forward, being a manager. So I moved into being a project engineer, then project manager, and finally into business management. So pushing things forward, inspiring, leading people, developing and growing our business. And I say to where I am now, responsible for a large number of engineers and actually making a difference to what we do here in the UK. around the energy market. And very briefly then we'll finish on the fact that I'm also really proud to say that I've been a board member of the ECITB now for 6 years. And the reason I'm so proud is because if it hadn't have been for the forerunner of the Engineering Construction Industry Training Board, which was the Engineering Industry Training Board, I wouldn't be here. It was because of that body that I was able to get the right apprenticeship. And so a little bit of me putting something back, but it enabled me to get some great skills so that I could then realise some fantastic opportunities in my industry. Thank you.
Wow, thanks, Dawn. And that really is some journey you've had. Thank you very much. So if I can come over to Dan, would you like to introduce yourself, Dan, and let the listeners have a little bit of information about your journey, please?
Absolutely. So my name is Dan, and as well as being a member of the board at the ECITB, I also work for Petrofac, which is a large UK-based engineering company. And at Petrofac, we engineer and build large energy projects all around the world. Today, my job at Petrofac involves developing the strategy of the business and thinking about how we apply our engineering abilities to the challenge of the energy transition and clean energy projects. I started my journey as an apprentice piping design engineer, and that job involves a lot of drafting, understanding materials, and using 3D modeling software to design engineered process systems. While I was a piper, I spent time working offshore, mostly in the North Sea, and I even worked on site during the construction of the Shetland gas plant and gained lots of practical experience there. I believed in saying yes to every opportunity that came along, and that approach really served me well. Very soon I was using my piping knowledge to help to create proposals for different jobs around the world. And from there, I was promoted, and I was initially promoted to technical due diligence lead, and that job involved helping people who wanted to buy second-hand oil and gas platforms to decide if they were in good enough condition and worth the money. So after doing a good job there and saying yes to lots more little opportunities, I was eventually approached by Petrofac's Chief Operating Officer to go to London and help to develop a new operating model for the business, so a new way of the business working. And I ended up spending nearly 3 years working for him and helping to optimize the way that the business worked. And as part of that, I helped to develop our energy transition strategy and thinking about how we bid for work and even how we report the financial performance of the business using intelligent dashboards and lots of big data. And that takes me up to today, where I do a bit of that work, a bit of the strategy kind of work, but I also roll my sleeves up occasionally and help directly with project management and delivering some of these big, exciting clean energy projects.
Wow! Again, thanks. That's really both of you. That's really impressive. You know, the responsibility that you've got now and the journey that you've had is quite impressive, to be fair. So, Dawn, if I could come back to you. Could I ask, you know, when you were a young person just looking at what options to take, what drove you down the apprenticeship route to use that as a potential launchpad for your career?
I didn't really have a choice, to be honest. We couldn't afford for me to do A-levels. I wasn't in a position where staying on at that time, it was 16, to carry on. So I needed to find a job. And it was interesting because, yes, earning while you learn. At that point, apprentices, didn't get paid that much. And I always remember a conversation with my best friend at the time who went to work in a factory, who was earning the same kind of salary as women that were in the 30s and 40s. And I was studying hard as well. So I was working and then doing, my studies 1 day a week, which, and then obviously you've got all your work aside from that. And she just couldn't get her head around the fact that I was doing what I was doing. And I was being paid, whilst I was being paid enough, more than enough to survive on, it wasn't a huge salary. And now here we are. I think she said to me probably when I was only 25 or 26, how wrong she realised she had been. So I didn't have a choice. Having said that, I would not change it. I wouldn't have done it any other way. I think the ability to, there's the earn side of it, but I think learn the practical skills about engineering construction are absolutely invaluable, and set me on a great course to be able to realise really fantastic opportunities.
Wow, thanks, Dawn. I guess it's it's a really good example of investing in your future, and you touched on the fact that you can earn while you learn again, which for me is really important. So Dan, maybe we could have a think, and maybe you could sort of give us explain some, in your view, some of the benefits that apprenticeships have over other ways of starting your career. For instance, going to university or going directly into employment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've actually done both. I've been to university and I've done an apprenticeship, so I've got good reference points there. I think on the apprenticeship point, firstly, it really does provide a fantastic foundation for your career, and it's a foundation that opens up a world of opportunities and potential career directions. You get the practical experience, as Dawn said, from day one in the job, and the ability to get quickly into doing is something that's invaluable, and that you don't necessarily get that same experience by going the university route. You get to work on site and on big, exciting, nationally important projects. And it can be really exciting, and of course you get to learn along the way. And if you decide that you want to, as I did, you can still pick up university level qualifications after you've finished your apprenticeship. And in fact, your apprenticeship also acts as a good foundation for that future study. But I think probably most importantly, and Dawn mentioned it, is the ability to earn a decent wage and learn while you work. And there are lots of opportunities to earn even better wages once you're fully qualified. So I think the key message for me and the key benefit for me is that that incredible foundation that it develops in you.
So that's really interesting there. So I think listening to you both there, that really does demonstrate to me what a sound way an apprenticeship is to enter the industry and open up some real opportunities and interesting careers. So that's really interesting. Thank you both. So Dan, I'm going to come back to you now. You've given us you've given us a bit of an insight into your very interesting journey. So I'll ask you, and then I'll come back and I'll ask Dawn also. But once you had your eyes set on an apprenticeship, what made you choose piping as a career path?
It's a good question. So I probably did the same thing that a lot of people would do when they were thinking about their career path. I did a lot of research online. And I compared the different disciplines that were available. So, the electrical opportunities, the structural opportunities, instrumentation, and of course, piping was the one that I ended up looking most closely at. I spoke with friends who worked in the sector, in the oil and gas sector at the time, to get a feel for what the job would be like and what I could expect. I, of course, researched the wage prospects, both during the apprenticeship and importantly after I qualified. But I think the most important thing, together with the kind of work that I enjoyed doing, I ended up deciding to pursue a career in piping. And again, a fantastic discipline that touches lots of different areas of a project. So a great foundation.
Dan, would you be able to just give the listeners a little bit of an overview in terms of what what your career actually meant in terms of piping, what we mean by that?
Yeah, so many of these projects, many of these large-scale engineering projects, a core component of what makes them work is the pipes that carry the fluids around the job. Now, it's not like plumbing. It's not like you can just turn up and sort of measure it up and install these things. These are huge fabricated spools, incredibly heavy, very thick metal, very strong to deal with immense pressures that a lot of these systems operate under. So what we would do, a typical job might look like going offshore, and maybe they were going to install a new module or something offshore. We would go off with surveyors and we would scan. You would get special 3D models that showed you the environment in a 3D environment, and we would then use modeling software to design these large pieces of piping equipment. And you know, these are tremendously large. These are things that weigh significantly more than a double-decker bus. You know, it's many tons. And we would then manage the fabrication process. Well, we'd manage the design process, the material selection, and that sort of stuff. So there was a lot of site-based work where we would get to go out and experience the environment and see for ourselves where our work would be going. And then there was a lot of desk-based work where we would produce 3D models and sort of follow engineering procedures to ensure that we got it right first time.
Wow, that sounds like a really challenging and demanding but very satisfying job, Dan. And it just gives us an idea of the scale of the materials and equipment that we can work with in the industry. Okay, thank you, Dan. So if I come over to you then, Dawn, you know, in terms of, you know, once you targeted an apprenticeship, what drove you down the route that you took in terms of job role?
So I think I said before, so I did it was a broad-based technician apprenticeship in mechanical engineering. My ambition, the reason for doing an apprenticeship was because I wanted to be a designer. So it was, I think, just what Dan said, it was those things that I enjoyed, the things that, you know, gave me a buzz. So it was the maths, it was the tech drawing as it was then. We didn't have CAD at school. You know, so those were the things that I knew that I really enjoyed, being creative, so applying those sciences. And it was during my apprenticeship, you know, I had the benefit of doing a number of different roles, and then ending up in the drawing office that I realised, actually, whilst that might have been what I chose to do, it wasn't the ideal thing for me. So, you know, there are an awful lot of disciplines. You know, aligning what you're doing in terms of your apprenticeship with studying means that even if you do pick a particular discipline, you know, Dan described a very, very thorough research element to deciding what he wanted to do, a lot of analysis, talking to people, which I didn't do actually. I just knew I wanted this broad picture of engineering. There are opportunities you can shift and change. As I say, I realised that actually wasn't that excited by the detailed technical work of working in a drawing office, and moved into project management. So slightly different, and that's the whole point of having us both on, approach. But the point is, engineering is fantastic. It is incredibly creative. It's very demanding. It's really, really rewarding. And I couldn't imagine being in any other industry. Hello?
Have we lost Adrian?
That's a really, really interesting journey both of you have had, and I think that just shows, you know, how rewarding apprenticeships can be. So, and I'll throw this open to both of you really now. So, what would be the standout thing in your day-to-day jobs that you find really, really interesting? Your favourite thing? And I'll go to Dan first on that.
For me, it is this is going to sound a bit of a cliche, but it's true. It's the excitement of every day truly being different, and never really knowing what to expect, you know, from 1 month to the next in terms of the types of jobs that you might be involved in and the types of opportunities that you might be pursuing. And of course, there's an opportunity to continue to learn and grow that comes with that. And I think the last point would be working in the engineering construction industry now at a time of profound change is fantastically exciting, because it often feels like we're on the frontier of this new world that we're trying to build, particularly when it comes to the energy transition. So that's it for me, I think.
Brilliant, thanks, Dan. So, Dawn, what would you say?
So day to day, I think Dan's said it. No one day is the same, and that's what really motivates me. That knowing what I'm doing makes a difference. Knowing that the people that I work with, the extremely talented, capable engineers and scientists, project managers, are keeping the lights on here and now and creating that future that will be, much cleaner. It will create a, we will get to a carbon-free environment through what we're doing in our industry. So just to show you, a thing that excites me, it's not a day-to-day thing, but I'm really proud that I'm part of a consortium that's helping to convince government about the importance of Sizewell C, constructing Sizewell C and investing in it, because it needs to be done here and now. So, having those kind of conversations and helping to shape MPs' thinking, that's part of my job as well. So as well as the day-to-day job of making sure we're doing the right things, it's influencing and shaping our industry's future and our world's future.
Thanks, Dawn. So Sizewell C, that's the big new nuclear power station that's being planned for the East Coast, isn't it?
That's right, yes, in Suffolk.
Wow. Okay, perfect. So I think, that just shows how you start off on a journey, and if you apply yourself and you drive yourself forward, you can end up in pretty senior positions with a lot of responsibility. That sounds really, really exciting. So finally, and I'll throw this to Dawn, if I may. So Dawn, in a one-liner, why would you recommend an apprenticeship to anyone that's considering entering the industry?
One line, gosh. So because it's you earn whilst you learn. It gives you the best possible practical background to be the springboard for a future career, which is incredibly exciting. It can be what you want it to be.
Okay, perfect. Dan, have you got anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I 100% agree with Dawn, and I think I've said it a few times. It is a fantastic foundation, and you're the masters of your destiny with this. You can grab your career and you can take it in any direction that you like. But with that, fantastic underpinning qualification and knowledge about how some of the important technical elements of things work, you really are giving yourself a great starting point for a successful future career.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, so many thanks to both Dawn James and Daniel Greer for giving us the time and giving us some really, really good information there. So that's the end of our session now, and I think we'll open up the floor for questions.
Hi, everybody. Great. That was really interesting and covered quite a really broad range of topics and exciting opportunities. We've had a really good mix of questions coming through, some specifically about apprenticeships themselves and some about the sector. So if we talk about the apprenticeship questions first, Faye asked, do apprentices get the chance to work on the types of projects you spoke about?
Yes. So we do employ our apprentices are very much employed on our construction sites, in our offices, supervised and given a really broad-based experience, as well as a focused discipline experience, so that experience of working on these huge projects.
Great. And they were asking as well specifically, what kind of qualifications do you need? And I'm putting a bit of a group of these together. What's the average salary? And Do you prefer degree qualifications or apprenticeships for management positions?
Do you want me to have a go at that one, Don? Yeah. So I think in terms of qualifications, it depends entirely on which type of apprenticeship you want to pursue. But things like studying maths at school and studying the sciences, they're inevitably helpful. The beauty of an apprenticeship, of course, is that you have the opportunity to learn as you do it. And so I would say for each for the apprenticeships that you're interested in looking at, check out the qualification requirements that are relevant to that role. In terms of starting salary, again, very role specific, very sector specific. I probably wouldn't want to give you guidance on that because I could be, 50% out or more, depending on what you choose. But I would say that, don't make the decision solely on starting salary because, that's just one little piece of the puzzle. And I think that, I didn't make the decision based on that. And I'm glad I did. Gave a good foundation. And what was the last component of that question, Sharon?
The last part of the question was saying this is about progression, really, and I think it's a kind of an interesting question. Do you prefer degree qualifications or apprenticeships for management positions?
I think for both scenarios, you need the experience under your belt. I think to be sort of a successful manager. And it may be that you do your apprenticeship, and as you're working, you continue to study in an area that specifically sets you up for a management position that you've got your eyes set on. But I wouldn't say that one was necessarily better than the other. Many of the best managers I work with have backgrounds as apprentices.
Sharon,
yeah, I think.
Sorry, Sharon. I was just about to add in something there that I think there's value in people that have come in through the apprenticeship route that necessarily haven't come in through the university graduate route because they've actually seen the job from different levels and got in some instances a more broad experience.
So I was just going to add to that. I think what I think is fantastic is that you see people from diverse backgrounds on management boards. So you'll see some people that have come directly through the degree route and other people that have done apprentices. Some people may have site experience, some may never worked on a construction site, but that diversity is what's really valuable. And so having people that have got that different practical experience is something that I look for in that cross-section of my management team.
Definitely, and it's something that we always talk about our career map, that careers aren't necessarily a linear path, and the same goes with qualifications. As you all touched on, a degree and apprenticeship aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. A blended way of going forward is also an opportunity. We've had quite a lot of kind of specific questions about specific types of apprenticeships. For instance, Shelley asked, which is the best to consider for which apprenticeships are the best to consider for future technologies, which employers are currently taking on apprenticeships and hiring, which offer the best opportunities, and where do you find them? And of course, I'm going to make a little plug here for Career Map because we have a large number of vacancies on our site, but I'll hand over to you to talk about the different employers and the type of people to look at in the sector and where they find them. But I like the bit about the future technologies because I bet that's exciting for young people.
I'm happy to pick this one up if that's okay with the panelists. So there's lots of places to find out information about, first of all, what type of apprenticeships you can do, and also which employers are hiring. For instance, there's on the web, there's something called Find an Apprenticeship, and you can put in where you're located, and then that will help you identify any potential vacancies. In addition to that, I would encourage you maybe to do a bit of research and find out about any sector that you wish to look to go into, and find out who the the employers are in that sector, and then maybe start to look on their websites, because sometimes you'll see adverts for apprenticeships there. And like Sharon said, there's also lots of career hubs as well that provide lots of meaningful advice and guidance. Was there anything else to that question that I've missed, Sharon?
No, there isn't at all. I think you guys nailed that pretty soundly. I kind of attached that I didn't kind of left off, which is kind of common questions that we get asked is about what an apprenticeship is. Is it a loan? Do you have to pay it back? And then once
Okay, Sharon, I think we've lost you. There you go. Oh, okay, I think I got most of that one. So, yeah. I think you dropped out for a minute. I think I got most of that one. So, I think the first thing to recognise about an apprenticeship is that one of the conditions of being an apprentice is that you must be employed. So typically in our industry, for what we would call a level 3 apprenticeship, that would be sort of like a 3.5-year journey. Typically, the first year of that program would be spent off the job. Now, by off the job, I mean in a centre, which could be with a training provider or in a college, where you learn all the theory and you also learn all the practical skills. Once you've completed that phase, you would then move into the workplace, and that's all about developing what we call occupational competence, and that is learning and consolidating your skills that you've learned in the centre and putting them into practice in the workplace, gaining experience and developing industry behaviours, usually under the guidance of an experienced person. And then towards the end of that phase, you would then look to complete your apprenticeship. So really, it's kind of like, I would say, typically a 3.5, even 4-year journey. And all the time you're getting paid because you are an employee.
Great. And we had some nice questions from some young women. We had Faye asking, is it a dangerous industry? And what kind of quals do you need to be a nuclear engineer, which is exciting. And Sarah says, what roles are there? She says something about females and in physics, but I think what we're really talking about is women in STEM and what the sort of opportunities are there for them.
So I guess I should take that one. So is nuclear dangerous? So that's a really big, broad question. It deals with some fairly hazardous waste materials. So how we handle those materials is critically important, and it's a huge responsibility. And then nuclear power station operation is also something that needs to be very, very well controlled. People need to follow the processes and procedures, and very importantly, we need to have the engineering control systems in place to keep things very safe, which we do here in the UK and actually abroad. So it's a big, big question, probably one that we don't have enough time for. But fundamentally, yes, it is safe. There are fewer people injured over the past 60, 70 years than there's been in any other operating sort of power station. You think about oil, you think about gas, you think about coal. So it is safe. For women, I think the world is now your oyster. I will just say that for the first time in my career, I actually think I have a little bit of an advantage over men. And I can honestly say that that's not been what it was like for the early parts of my career. I didn't say what happened to me at the very beginning. I had a false start. So I did get an apprenticeship, but they wouldn't let me on the shop floor because I was a girl. So 37 years ago, I wasn't allowed to go onto the shop floor because I was a girl. They put me straight into the drawing office. I realised within 6 months I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And it was actually the EITB, as it was then, that found me a company that had a place that hadn't been filled. I went for an interview, so I did get an apprenticeship on my own merit, but it was the EITB that put me in touch with this company. Actually, I was Apprentice of the Year that year. So I think that the tide has finally turned, ladies, to be honest, with equal respect. And that's both in terms of employers. I think most employers are great and have been for many, many years, but also being able to juggle being a mother and going to work as well. And then physics, nuclear physics, great career. We employ a huge number of physicists in our business in Jacobs. You will need to do a degree to be a nuclear physicist, but you could start off as an apprentice. Not really a likely career route for a physicist though, but yes, it's I think I've hopefully touched all of those questions that you asked then. Great.
I think so, and I think it is an exciting time for young women, particularly in industries that are sort of STEM related, or if you're not familiar with the term STEM, the science, technologies, engineering sort of courses and qualifications and sectors. We had some more specific questions about getting the job, as it were. We had a question that asked, what types of questions do you get asked during an apprenticeship interview, and do you have any advice or tips? And then someone asked, what do you look for first, the employer or the qualification, or in this case, apprenticeship?
I can take that one. So in terms of the interview questions, I think a lot of it is standard interview practice. You can probably research it online. It's, things like, tell me about yourself, tell me what you know about this company, tell me why you want to do this job. But some of them will be more role specific, and it'll probably be a little bit about, tell me about the role, tell me what your expectations are, tell me where you want to see yourself in 5 years. And so I think for that reason, it's really important to carefully research the role that you're going in for, an interview that you might have, and of course the company, before you do go in for an interview. In terms of finding the opportunities and whether or not you should sort of seek an opportunity or reach out to a company, I think from my perspective and from the approach that I took, it was the opportunity itself that was advertised, and it was the opportunity that I applied for, rather than specifically seeking out Petrofac. Although saying that, there have been instances where individuals have reached out directly to the company or to individuals within the company, and people see that as somebody that's being proactive and motivated, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. If you're struggling to find a specific opportunity that you're interested in. So I would say probably prioritize the opportunity first, but don't be scared to reach out to the organization and ask them whether or not they've got any opportunities that might be good for you.
Great. I'm going to hand over to the apprenticeship team.
Sorry, Sharon, I didn't catch that. Could you?
Yes, sorry. I had there was some questions that perhaps the ECITB team would like to field in the apprenticeship questions that have been coming up.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. So we've had a question in asking what qualifications do you get with apprenticeships, and that's a really interesting question because it depends what type of apprenticeship you undertake. Some apprenticeships you don't actually get qualifications other than the apprenticeship certificate at the end of the programme in England. But some apprenticeships, typically you would get what we call a vocational qualification, which is a skills-based qualification, and then a knowledge qualification. For instance, something like a BTEC, and that's typically at level 2 or level 3. And then if you were going into a higher, what we call a higher level apprenticeship, then those apprenticeships could deliver degrees, and then some of them even deliver master's level qualifications. So it all very much depends on what type of apprenticeship you're looking at going on. So I hope that answers the question that's come in there. And then we've had another question as well, and that's specifically about ECITB scholarships. And it says, who employs the learner while they're on an ECITB scholarship? Well, that's a really good question, because the learner and this is the big difference between an ECITB scholarship and an apprenticeship. A learner on an ECITB scholarship is not actually employed. They're a full-time learner, and we pay them a learner allowance while they're on term time to enable them to complete their full-time studies. at some stage towards the end of the programme or upon completion, they then would become employed. Okay, thank you, Sharon. I think that's answered a couple of the questions that we noticed.
Yeah, no, great, and that was the sort of specifics and the advantages of being in the chat now. When we're talking about going back to who's hiring, is there how is the sector, I think, is doing at the moment in terms of recruitment? Because we all know that we have the COVID pressing down hard on some sectors. But I would imagine it's still going strong in the engineering construction world.
So I'll speak. So yes, it is. It's a challenging time, no doubt about it. And everyone's trying to work on the schedules for the projects that are underway to understand how COVID has impacted them. So what do we need? What skills do we need now and in the future? But the point of apprenticeships is to plan for the future, is to make sure that we have those skills that we need in the future. And there is going to be a huge investment in the UK in critical infrastructure and major construction projects. So yes, I think you'll find that most firms have been impacted. So we are in tough times. We know that across the UK. The UK economy has been hit, but most companies that I'm aware of are continuing to recruit apprentices as best as they can.
Lovely. And we got one last question in from Tim, who asked what sort of projects that you do. And we also had someone who asked Dan specifically a question, if Dan's still with us, of what is one of the projects that you take pride in? Which I think they're both nice ones to end up with today.
That's a good question. So the project that I'm involved in at the moment, I'm very proud to be involved with it. It's a carbon capture and hydrogen project, and it's right on the front of the energy transition. You know, it represents the change from developing oil and gas platforms for energy towards moving to more cleaner, more sustainable sources of energy. So I'm very proud of that. And of course, the Shetland gas plant in my hometown, largest construction project since the London Olympics, and that was a fantastic experience. Something that I'm very proud to have been involved in.
Thank you all very much. We had a nice range of questions covering everything about apprenticeships themselves, about the sector, about different jobs. I see that you've popped into the chat box that if people want to find more information about the ECITB scholarships, it's a link that you can click now. So if you are interested in that, if you're watching and you would like to learn more, it's a great idea to click now, because once this session's over, which is in a couple of minutes, the chat box will close. Just to let you know that this whole session has been recorded. So if you want to share it further or come back to it and have a look again, it'll be available on careermap.co.uk/careermap live in just a couple of days. And you can go back and have a look. So for me, Sharon Walpole at CareerMap, I'm really pleased that you all join us at this hour. And I'll allow my guests to say their farewells. And then hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. It's goodbye from Dan.
And goodbye from Dawn. Is that some kind of TV show?
Yeah.
And thank you all for participating and asking these fabulous questions. Makes me feel very humble, and I wish you all the very best in your careers. I really do.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Sharon. If I can just say one last thing, if you want to find out more about ECITB, we have got a website, www.ecitb.org.uk. Failing that, please look out for us on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Great.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you all. It's been a really interesting session. I hope you have a great week. Nice to see all the thank yous, and thank you. Take care and have a good National Apprenticeship Week. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye-bye.